This is how I won 77% of my bets last month. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how I was able to get that done and what the key things are that you need to do to be able to implement this strategy so that way you are hitting a higher percentage month in and month out. So without further ado, let's jump into the laptop so I could show you guys exactly what it looked like last month. So let's go ahead and start with the money lines and totals. Money lines and totals last month, I hit 86.36% and gained about a little over 5 units there. Now, if we take a look, there wasn't too many for totals and money lines, but we hit a crazy amount and only lost 3. Now, what do these have in common if you take a look at these plays? Obviously, the odds, right? The odds are all above minus 200, okay? Even the totals. Why is that? Because the totals all alternates. These are alternate totals. I either bought up or I bought down to get to the total that I wanted here. And that is because of probability. There are some probabilities that they are going to reach over that number or under that number. And the higher the probability, the more likely we are to play those. Money lines, same thing here. Money lines you'll see in the 200 sections. Guess what? Most of them won. Okay? The reason why is because the probability matched the implied odds and was a little bit better and gave us a slight edge. When you put those two together, what does that produce? That produced an 86% win rate and a gain of 5 units. So that was the money lines and the totals. Now let's go ahead and take a look at some props. This prop section is where I put the probabilities for 55% to 69%. Now here, a little less impressive, okay? 72% win-loss ratio, gained almost 2.5 units there. But the same thing is in common with money lines and totals. The numbers, the odds. These all dictate, okay, implied odds versus the true probability and giving yourself an edge. That is where winning sports betting really is. That is how you have winning sports betting, okay? You don't have winning sports betting by randomly picking minus 200s and thinking they're going to win. That is how you lose. How you win is being able to snipe out the exact probabilities, have the right implied probability versus the true probability to come up with your props. All right, let's go to the next section now, which is going to be 70% and above for player props. This right here is where your F-bombs are, a lot of the AI picks and stuff like that come from. Let's check this out. Where'd we go here? 77.42% and gained almost 8.5 units. Again, look at the odds. Same thing. Most people would never bet odds like this. They would never bet odds like this. Why? Because they think it's not worth it, right? They think, oh, you lose 1, it takes 3 to recoup it. Well, guess what? What happens when you lose 1 and you win 7 in a row? You lose 1 and then you win 10 in a row. You lose 3 and then you win 15 in a row. What happens there? The little increments add up over time, and that shows it. And if you guys have paid attention to any of the shorts that I've done with the challenge of the 30-day challenge, you'll see that you just slowly start gaining money over time. That's the way to do this. You have to gain money, okay? You have to gain money. That's the name of the game, is gaining money. You're gaining a little bit over time in increments. Here's your increments. Look. I'm betting 1,000 to win 470. I'm betting 1,000 to win 380. 1,000 to win 370, 350. Okay? But that's the name of the game. These little ones, they add up over time. And look, when you string a bunch of them together, like 7, 8, 9, 10 in a row, think of the profit that you rack up right in that little increment right there. You really rack up some serious cash through there. Okay? This is winning sports betting, and this is what winning sports betting looks like. If you look at the bet size, now I put down a $1,000 unit size. This doesn't mean I'm betting $1,000 at one sports book. I'm not. I have to spread this amongst multiple sports books because no sports book's going to allow you to continuously bet that amount. So I have to spread it amongst. But I log it as one bet because if I don't, then the percentages would be off. But staying consistent. Do I tilt? Do I go crazy? Do I bet 4,000 or 5,000 on one game because I lost 2? No. I stay consistent with my unit size no matter what the odds are, and I ride through the storm. That's it. You ride through the highs, you ride through the lows. That is how you get it done, and that's how you win. But you can't just go out there randomly betting minus 250s, minus 260s, minus 400s. You cannot randomly do those. Okay? Yes, you might get lucky, but over the long term, you will lose if you're randomly selecting those. They need to have the correct implied probability versus true probability to give yourself an edge. If it gives yourself an edge over time, then yes, you will be collecting money and you will be stacking your profit. Now, if you add all these together throughout the month, like I said, on an average, I was able to hit 86% here, 72% here, and then 77% where I just showed you. Okay, for an average of around 77%. That's where we averaged out. But made 15.5 units almost together, all throughout the whole entire thing. Just think of that. When you're betting $1,000 a game, that's $15,000 made in 1 month. What happens there? That is true profit, and we do this month after month after month. So most people think, oh, you know what? Maybe it's just something that, you had a good month. Well, guess what? We can go here. Let's go take a look at last month, right? Let's pull up last month here. See how we did there. Let's pull up the fifth. 12.12 units in at 78%. This isn't a fluke. All right, this is the only way to sports bet. This is the only way to win, seriously, long term. There is no other way. People that try to fill your head thinking that there's other ways to do this, they're wrong. This is the only way. I've been around it, and I've used it, and I've perfected it. So if you guys want in and you want to know how to produce these type of gains, all you got to do is click the link in the description to work with me. And you'll have access to all of this stuff. You'll be able to see exactly what it's like to be a winning sports bettor rather than looking over here and you see a negative sign right next to the dollar amount. Because that's what 90% of sports bettors do. Now, let's go ahead and jump to the whiteboard so I can show you guys exactly the key takeaways from what it is that I just showed you and put it on paper so that way you could visualize it. So what are the key takeaways to winning 77% of the time? Having that as your win-loss percent. Okay, 1, consistent, all right? If anything of what I just showed you, being consistent was the most important part. Because if I took days off or I skipped a couple days, they could have been winning days, and guess what? That would jeopardize my whole entire month. So staying consistent is very important. Number 2 was implied odds versus true probability odds. Making sure that these two go hand in hand to produce a plus edge. Okay? All these plays that I showed you have a plus edge. There's an exception sometimes. Sometimes there's an exception because of an injury or something like that that puts a player in a position that has an opportunity to achieve the stat that we're betting on, and sometimes it's a negative edge, but the negative edge is getting offset because of an injury or something like that. Other than that, everything is mostly plus edge, and that is how you make money long term from what I just showed you. You slowly increase your bankroll by playing edges of 1%, 2%, 3%, 5%, anything like that. Slow advantage. It's a slow advantage, and you slowly build it up. Now, this is for any type of real bankroll, I would say, because it's all the same. Okay, whether you have $1,000, $5,000, $10,000, $25,000 bankroll, you're still using the same strategy and implementing the same thing. The profit is what's going to be different because the higher you bet, obviously, the more profit you make compared to the lower amount of money is the lower amount of profit. That really brings me to number 3 here, which is very important, which is having the realistic mindset. You gotta have the realistic mindset, okay? If you're starting out with $5 grand, you correlate that with what I just showed you, okay? If you started out with, actually, you know what? I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to show you guys some projections on the next one here. But realistic mindset is what you need. You need to understand, if I have this amount of money, this is what I'm projected to make. If I have this amount, I might make this amount. Not, I have $1,000, I want to make 100 grand. That's not realistic. It's not realistic. Everything I showed you is realistic. That's realistic mindset right there. You're betting $1,000 a game. Yes, you can expect to make $15,000 in a month. Yes, you can expect that. Okay? Have that realistic mindset. You've got to. All right? These are the three biggest things that I take away every single month. Staying consistent, having your plus edge with your true probability, with your implied odds, and having the realistic mindset of what it is that you can achieve. Now let's go into projections to show you what it would look like with your certain type of bankrolls. Now let's go ahead and jump to a 25K bankroll. All right, 25K bankroll. What happens there? You're betting 1%, 2%, either or. 2% would be $500, so it'd be pretty much half of what I showed you there. All right, so 25K bankroll betting at 2%. Let's go 2% here. You would have made $7,500. All right, $10,000 bankroll. Let's go 2% again. $200. Okay, $200 unit size times it by 15 units, you would have made $3,000. Let's go to a 5K bankroll now. 2% of that would be obviously half of this, because you'd be betting $100 a game. Your 5K bankroll would bring you to $1,500. Now, most people will look at this. They'll look at this section right here, probably most. And they will think, that's not a lot of money if I have $5,000. Guess what? Making $1,500 extra a month can pay some people's rent, can pay a car bill, can pay insurances, can pay utilities, can do a lot. $3,000, now you're going into the level of making some serious money there. Obviously, like I just showed you, your bankroll, as your bankroll goes up, so does your money, so does your profit. You have to go hand in hand with realistic expectations. If you have no money, you need to save your money. But you don't save your money, because I get this message a lot from people. Oh, Frank, I'm not ready to jump into it yet because I got to build my bankroll first. You're not going to build your bankroll by making bad bets. So put that out there first. If you're going to build your bankroll by saving money from your job, putting that aside, then I understand. But if you're going to continuously keep betting, you're not going to build your bankroll unless you learn from me. There's no other way around it. It's just not going to happen. You're just going to lose more and more money and then never figure it out. It's a vicious cycle. So to get to this level, you have to obviously start somewhere, but you have to know what to do. Because if you don't know what to do, you're never going to get to these levels. You will be stuck in the vicious cycle of losing, emptying out the account, filling it up, losing, emptying it out, filling it up. You will continuously be in that vicious cycle that 90% of sports bettors are in. And like I said, if you want me to teach you how to make these type of gains and this type of money, make sure you guys click the link in the description, because it's not hard to be able to turn it around and actually make some decent money when it comes to sports betting. And remember, when you have an edge, then every investment becomes a winning opportunity. As always, guys, I'm Frank with Linemaker Sports. I'll see you guys in the next video. Till then, I'm out.